Hello, this is a comparison between a standard upright piano action, which is in nearly all modern and old style pianos, and the parts are all available for old style, nearly all available, and some digital piano actions. As we can see, there's three here. I just want to get some idea of the comparison between them to think about the differences. Now, the standard modern action has various adjustments. I've got key weighting on here. We'll look at that later on, the difference in the key weighting. But we've mentioned this just recently on some action models. I'm trying to do more action model videos. The standard regulation will be the key dip here. That's the distance the key goes down. And then we have what we call a let-off here. This is really important. So obviously the hammer travels towards the string and needs to pull off at some stage. And that's what this let-off mechanism does. We'll look at the key weighting later because that's really important. But looking at this second action here, we can see that they've tried to copy or mimic the standard action here. We can just look at see how they work. So if we press the key downwards, we can see they've got the let-off there. I don't know if you can see the let-off on here very well, but if I press it down, you can see it's trying to mimic the let-off. See a little button here trying to mimic the let-off on a standard modern action. Sorry, I meant a standard upright action. If I press there, this is the let-off here, and as the jack hits the let-off, it pulls out. And you can just feel that on the key. So if I press my hand down on the key, I can feel the let-off, and that's what they're trying to mimic here, where you get some feel of the let-off. So as you press down, you can feel the let-off. You can just about feel it in this action model. Obviously here with some other things like the counterweight, because you need to balance the weights, and a sensor, which you obviously don't have on a standard piano action. On the second digital action too, they're trying to mimic again the let-off. If you can see the word let-off there, sorry if it doesn't show up very well, but you can see it's trying to mimic it there, at that point there. And on this third digital action, it doesn't have any mimicking of the let-off at all. So you can't feel any difference when you press down. You can't feel a sudden or slight difference as you get near the end. So I'm going back to the standard piano action, upright action. You can feel, and this is the same on grand pianos, you can feel it as it hits, the button hits and it pulls the jack out. It's not very pronounced, but you can just about feel it. Now, all these components on a standard upright piano are replaceable. You can get replacement parts right through to the very old upright Bechstein Bluethners. Replacement parts are available, so that's not really an issue if you're thinking, well, it's an old piano, I better get a new one, or I better get a digital one. All these parts are replaceable. They're all made of wood. There are some plastic parts in some pianos, but this is a standard wood one. Sometimes you get a plastic capstan here. We've shown recent videos with, they seem to be working fine, but I actually prefer really seeing just wood and no plastic at all. But this is aluminium, by the way. That's usually wood on older pianos, and I think wood you can work really well with wood. So I'm not criticizing not trying to criticize any other make of piano that's using plastic. Obviously slightly cheaper, and works perfectly well. Now, a major issue with these digital pianos is the parts are difficult to replace, and I don't know anyone personally who in our area in Oxford replaces men's digital parts, but I'm sure there are people who do that, but they're all quite different. The second action mimics a piano better. Obviously it's got wood here, and we can see, I turn this action round just so you can see a bit better. It's pushing up and hitting the string there, and you can feel a little bit of let-off. Works quite well. Again, the main problem is replacing parts. They do tend to go wrong after a few years. If standard upright pianos go wrong, we can always repair them if necessary, and they're incredibly long. They live incredibly long anyway. You don't tend to need to replace them. Just moving over to the third action here, and again, they've got wooden keys, and same thing really. We do tend to find that they after sort of 20 years or so, or a lot of heavy playing, they do tend to need work. And on Oxford in England, we don't have anyone that I know I can rely on to work on them. So there's a job for someone who might want to try and repair digital pianos. I've mentioned regulating key weight on recent videos, and it's really important to us. If you're a musician and you want to play sensitively, then the weighting of the keys is really important. This is 50 grams, that's pretty standard. And that's, as you can see, it's not going all the way down. That's because the damper's not lifted off. So lifting the damper off, the spring weight here isn't a factor, because that spring weight is quite extensive. By the way, the damper, if it comes off too early, the whole key is going to feel much heavier. So now if we look at the key weighting, we've lifted the damper off, and let's look at the 50 grams, and it goes down actually slightly too quick, so that's slightly lighter than I want it to be. So we would put weights, as we mentioned in the previous video, to weight the keys at 50 grams, or 48 to 50 is really, 48 to 52 is acceptable. Let's have a look at some digital weighting. Now on this first digital model, the first key here, this key here, seems to be lighter than 50 grams. You can actually feel the less off, funny enough, but it's stopping there, whereas if you put the pedal down on a normal piano, it will go all the way down with the correct weighting. So that's a difference we can see. And on this one here, it's not going, it's just going down a little bit. So that's probably just over 50 grams, I think. And this one isn't going down. Let's see how much weight we need to put on that one. So I've added another 8 grams, and it's just about going down, if we can see there. And again, it's stopping, as if you put your foot on the pedal, as I mentioned, on an upright, it will go down all the way. And this one, the sharp here, again, I think quite similar. So let's say that's 58 grams. On this second digital model, it's not going down at all at 50 grams. So let's see what weight they are. This first key is going down quite happily at 58 grams, so it's less than 58. This one is not going down at all, and it's quite heavy, I can feel that. And this one, again, is just about going down. That's probably about 60 grams. Let's have a look. So this one is just about going down at 65 grams, and let's look at the sharp. Again, that's wanting to go down at 65 grams. So there's quite a difference between the two adjacent keys, and we would want them to be very similar, plus or minus 2 grams is what we're aiming for. Indeed, we had a digital piano recently. A client bought a Steinway upright that he needed us to key weight, and he previously had one of the top range digital pianos. He'd used it quite extensively, so it got very varied, and the weighting was extremely varied between the keys. We weighted his Steinway upright, and he said afterwards he never played his digital. Well, obviously, if you've got to have a digital, then you also get the best quality you can. But I'm trying to show the differences so it helps you to decide. So on this last action model, this one doesn't want to go down at 65, even encouraging it. I think it's the heaviest of all of them so far. And this one here, let's have a look. That's just about 65. And let's have a look at the sharp. Well, that's going down really fast, so that's obviously much less. Let's see what it is. And this one's responding at 56 grams. If we want to reduce the down weight, then we first have to check the up weight, which should be at least 20 grams. So this is 32 grams, and if I lift it up, it's easily coming up, and that's because the damper is still attached to the string. But if we lift the damper off, so lifting the damper off, we can see it just coming back nicely. So that is about 32 grams. Up weight on acoustic pianos does vary a lot. On this Yamaha U3, I've got 40 grams here now, and it's coming up reasonably fast, so it's slightly more than 40 grams. And if we reduce the down weight, then the up weight will also reduce. So we're aiming perhaps for 32 grams maximum up weight, so that will be ideal. Really, more than 32 grams is too much, so we're trying to go for 32 grams, between 20 and 32 grams. Now the down weight is very high. Obviously we can reduce the down weight. If we reduce the down weight, the up weight will also reduce. This is about 56 grams. The up weight on this key is far too high. You tend to get the feeling that it's pushing you back up when you push the key down, and that we don't really want that. Low up weight is generally good, so between 20 and say 30 is what is ideal. So that's also going up almost at 60 grams, a little bit less on those two. Let's take 4 grams off and see what happens. That's going up at 56 grams, and this one is still not going up. So they're varied, quite varied on this model. On this one, the up weight is about 48 grams, which is what we want the down weight to be, not the up weight really. And this one here is the same. and this one is lighter, so less than 48 grams. And this one is a bit more than 32 grams on that key. This one is again a bit more than 32 grams, and the last one is about 32 grams. So again, a bit on the high side. And lastly, I want to mention the key dip. On the standard upright piano, it's between 10 and 11 normally. So 10 millimeters and 11 millimeters, the distance the key travels. So on this first digital model, we've got more or less 10, just above 10, 10.5 possibly, on both of those two keys. This is definitely slightly lower than the other one, so that's definitely 10.5, I think. The sharps, by the way, we measure them like this, so that sharp should be 12 millimeters from the naturals, and then pushes down to around about 2 millimeters above. That's slightly more, that one, isn't it? In the second action model, it's more like 11 millimeters. That's very common. We found that digitals tend to be about 11 millimeters, and the same one, that's even more actually. That's more like 12 millimeters. In the third action model, that's about 11 millimeters, and this one is the same, about 11 and a half, I think. So I've been trying to show some of the differences between ordinary acoustic pianos and digital pianos in terms of the action, the mechanism, and that's really important. People choose pianos mainly on the feel of the pianos, though as piano dealers, as piano tuners, we love to get pianos that sound really beautiful and feel really beautiful. So the pianos we choose are ones that we think are the very best. Now, in terms of the action on the pianos, then we've seen that the key weighting is a major issue, and if I put this key weight on this Yamaha, this is made in 1972, it doesn't quite go down at 56 grams, so that is really a bit heavier than I want it to be. Let's try 60 grams. It should certainly go down at 60 grams. Yes, easily. So it's probably about 59. I want to bring that down a bit, so we will. First of all, we want to check that the lubrication on the center rail, and that's fine on this one. I can tell by lifting the keys up. That doesn't need lubricating. We've mentioned this many times on other videos now. So 58 grams, it's just about to go down, so we'll reduce that to certainly 52, 53 maximum. If you want a heavy weight, then 55. Apparently Kawai make their pianos 55 grams down weight, so I've been told, but standardly we would go 50 to 52, and I've mentioned this many times, so if you've been listening to lots of videos, I hope you're not bored by that, but it's really important for the musician that the keys are evenly weighted, and we can easily reweight keys on a standard piano. So I hope that's been helpful. If you're interested in this piano, which is made in 1972, just come into stock, beautiful Yamaha upright. They're standard good pianos, and we try to perfect them as much as possible. As I say, touch rate's a major thing for us, and obviously it's very stable tuning wise and so on. So thank you very much. If you are interested in this piano, please write to robertspianos@gmail.com. And if you've got any comments, and I'm sure there'll be comments, and I'm sure I haven't got everything right, so I'm sure there'll be some comments from the piano trade, and I'd love to hear from you. This has come in beautifully in tune. We haven't tuned the piano since it's arrived. We'll obviously be refining the tuning too.